And he joins us right now, our friend Paul Finebaum of the SEC Network and ESPN. Known Paul a long, long time, and so glad to have him on the program. Paul, how you doing, my friend?
Guys, I'm doing great. I've been wondering why it took so long to get an invitation back to this show. I used to be a regular, John. Come on.
John's used to it. John's used to getting an invitation once.
Paul, I think it had something to do with both of our former employees, if you catch my drift.
Yeah, we could have quite a program on all the people we've once worked for.
Boy, no kidding. Paul, you'll be in Tuscaloosa this afternoon for your television and radio show, SEC Nation, tomorrow as well.
Yeah, this is my favorite day of the year. I don't have to fly to 14 different airports to get to Columbia, Missouri. So I just get in the car and head down. But so it's really great. I mean, John and Barry, it's hard to, I think sometimes when you're of a certain age, you wax poetic about Tennessee, Alabama. But when I was a kid in Tennessee and really at school at Tennessee, this was the biggest moment of the year. Nothing else came close. And it's still pretty special, not as important maybe as it once was. But if you're a Tennessee or Alabama fan and you're not in college right now, this game means a lot.
What is your read on the job Josh Heupel has done at Tennessee? Regardless, we'll break down the game, I suppose, later, but just the overall job he's done and how well he's built things.
Yeah, I mean, it's a little strange considering he went to the playoffs last year, but it was an unforgettable playoff experience having to go to Ohio State. But that's still an accomplishment. He's beaten Alabama a couple of times. He's beaten Florida. He hasn't beaten Georgia, which is the one thing that some Tennessee fans are unhappy about. But overall, he's a great developer of quarterbacks. The whole thing with Nico and Aguilar really went well for Tennessee. And, it hasn't been that long ago that Tennessee was on a run of people like Derek Dooley and Butch Jones,
Jeremy Pruitt,
and yeah, I'm sorry, I was trying not to mention Jeremy Pruitt. I mean, it's hard to find a group. I mean, I was about to say it's hard to find a group of coaches that have been that unsuccessful, but we could talk about Auburn.
Well, we will.
Believe me.
Yeah, believe me. Yeah, we're not going to let you out without that. Kalen DeBoer, year and a half in. His quarterback, Ty Simpson's having a spectacular year. The national media loves him, Heisman favorite. We had a former SEC player join us earlier this week. I thought he made an interesting point. Very high on Ty Simpson, but he also made the comment he's masking some of Alabama's deficiencies, particularly in the running game and along that offensive line. Your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think that's a really good analysis. And I mean, I can sit here and paint the prettiest picture in the world, and then you tell me that Tennessee wins tomorrow, and suddenly it feels very vulnerable. That's what happens when you blow that first game. And John, I mean, I remember I was in New York on Labor Day. I did some ESPN shows back then. That's before they got unhappy with me. And it was. I remember talking to a bunch of my friends from Alabama. And I mean, it felt like the world was coming to an end on that Labor Day. Every negative thing you could hear about Kalen DeBoer. So, I mean, what really impresses me is that he was able to undo the damage of that moment. I remember being in a production meeting with a couple of pretty good quarterbacks on our SEC Nation team the next week, and they were openly speculating that Ty Simpson was about to get pulled. So we all know what's happened in the ensuing 7 weeks. I think DeBoer technically is one of the best coaches in the country. There's still some aspects of the Alabama program that I think still need to be tightened before they can compete for a title. But I really do like that.
Who is the best team in the SEC?
I would say Alabama today. Now, you could argue Texas A&M, but to me, they have not been tested like Alabama has.
Right.
Ole Miss, I think, will have its undoing against Georgia tomorrow. So, I mean, I feel pretty comfortable in saying that Alabama right now is the team. If you said, okay, we've got to stop the Big Ten somehow, some way, pick your best team, I would trust Alabama over Ole Miss and Texas A&M. I still think Texas is capable of being very good. But they're at a mulligan, so to speak. And in Georgia, Georgia looks like Georgia has the last 2 or 3 years. Really good, resilient, but vulnerable against a certain type of team.
Okay, you touched on it. You knew we were going to ask you. Hugh Freeze at Auburn. We knew that this stretch of games was going to be tough. Oklahoma, Texas A&M, Georgia. It certainly has been for Freeze, but the lack of the play calling, Jackson Arnold, the offensive line, same issues that have been hurting this team in the first 2 seasons are continuing. What's the future? What's going on at Auburn and with Hugh Freeze?
Well, just to show you how foolish I am, John, I said in the summer that the biggest game of the year was Baylor, because it felt like if Baylor went the other way, then everything would begin to unravel. I think you can now say it's Missouri, because we always like to look at either ors. To me, if Auburn wins this game, they have a very good path, I think, to the Alabama game, perhaps unscathed, and really undo this damage. But a loss could be incalculable. It's going to be very difficult for Hugh Freeze to come back easily from a defeat, especially when it's piled on top of what we saw the previous couple of weeks. This is paramount. I also, having been in Columbia last weekend, I think Missouri is very beatable. They're good, but they're not great. I think if Auburn can just continue. I mean, if Auburn can just get on track and be consistent the whole game, it's too late in the year for us to start dicing and slicing up Hugh Freeze's offensive philosophy, assuming he has one. It feels like Jackson Arnold is just not quite to the caliber of what we thought he was going to be, which means that Hugh Freeze has possibly missed on a quarterback again, which is on him. So I'm pretty concerned. I like Auburn to win the game, but the other side of it is really ugly.
If they don't win the game and maybe drop another one, does Hugh Freeze coach in the Iron Bowl?
I don't know how he could be. Do you? I mean, if you told me that there's 2 more losses before then it seems futile to let this go on. And the reason why is that the overall record is just so terrible. And I don't think it's really fair to compare Hugh Freeze to James Franklin or what, but the bottom line is that Freeze has been given everything. And I compliment John Cohen and the people that run Auburn and the boosters that helps this program. But there is no excuse ever, in my mind, for Auburn to be mediocre. Now, I'm old school, John and Barry, and you guys have been around a while and seen what we have all seen. But to me, what Pat Dye did at Auburn in the 80s and early 90s should be the principle that this program adheres to. There's just no reason why it should be in the middle of the pack or below that. It's unacceptable to me. I think Auburn should be. I mean, we have all lived in an era when Auburn was on the exact same level as Alabama, and in many ways better than Alabama. And it can't continue to be mired in mediocrity.
I'm not asking whether or not there's a good guy or a bad guy in the controversy with Damari Alston leaving the team. I'm asking about the optics, though. Coming out with a statement that said Damari did not meet the standards of the team, I think is a bad look for Auburn. Do you see that, Paul?
Yeah, and Barry, as soon as that statement came out, I heard a lot of our callers say, well, speaking of not meeting the standards, neither has Hugh Freeze. So, I'm really caught because I like Hugh Freeze. I want to believe in him, but he makes it very difficult sometimes when he offers these inane statements, and he makes it more difficult to. I mean, if you did a vote on who the fans are siding with this week, it's not Hugh Freeze.
Yeah. Let's look into your crystal ball. What's the future of Lane Kiffin? Does he wrap up his coaching career in Oxford, Mississippi, or do you see him somewhere else?
I see him elsewhere. I mean, he's just too impatient. He's 50 years old. He's overcome a lot of things, and I really admire where he is because he's very open about his battles and demons. But a lot of it could depend on this weekend too, because if Ole Miss gets a win, they are going to have the inside track to the SEC championship game. And that means that he can't go looking for a job this year because he'll be too busy in the playoffs. But my guess is that Lane Kiffin is always looking around to see what openings there are. And this year in the SEC, there will be a few openings. And I would have said a year ago he wanted Florida. I don't know if that's the same anymore, but I just have a hard time believing that Lane Kiffin can stay anywhere for a long time.
Well, you mentioned Florida. A lot of buzz this week coming out of Gainesville. What's the story with Billy Napier, and what's going to happen when they get rid of him?
Well, he's definitely going to get fired, and I thought it was pretty stupid to keep him last year, and I know it was hard not to because he got hot at the end of the year. But we spent an entire offseason listening to Florida people talk about how great their program was going to be, and it is just as mediocre as it was last year. With a difficult schedule, which most every SEC school has, I think, except Missouri and maybe Texas. So ultimately, he's gone. What kind of coach do you hire there? Kiffin, is it Kiffin? Is it Eli Drinkwitz? Do you go bizarre and bring in James Franklin? I'm not really certain. Scott Strickland, the AD, has gone with people he's been comfortable with. He hired Dan Mullen, who he worked with at Mississippi State. To me, Napier was that hot coach at the moment who didn't pan out, but that's always the case. I mean, how many hot coaches have we seen now that are analysts or on TV? So I think if you're going to be the Florida coach, you better be an offensive-minded coach. They've had enough of defensive coaches. They're still living in the shadows of Spurrier from 30 years ago and Urban Meyer from 15 years ago.
Two more for you, Paul, before we let you go. I know you interview him every Monday, but I get the sense that LSU fans are not overly confident in Brian Kelly.
They're not. And I will tell you, as somebody who I'm not sure this is a great task or something I'm haunted with, but I interview him every Monday on our show. And I'm not looking forward to this Monday because should they lose to Vanderbilt Saturday, I think you will start to see the traction under Brian Kelly start to slip away. It is going to be extremely difficult for him to overcome that, especially with Texas A&M next week. So I think it's critical that he wins. And he's been pretty good in this position. But even yesterday on the show, I started to hear from LSU fans. And I'll tell you, you guys have both been there a bunch of times. That is a brutal fan base. I mean, they are. And the problem down there is there's two teams in Louisiana. There's the Saints and LSU, and they treat them the same way. They're a professional team. So they fire coaches after every loss. And Brian Kelly will not be sitting pretty with a loss to Vanderbilt.
One coach that did get fired has got a golden parachute. I mean, obviously Penn State, no limits. Money's not an issue. Where do you see Penn State going?
It feels like Matt Rule. And by the way, Matt Rule's record is no better than James Franklin's. In fact, it's worse. But I don't think he's had the goods that James Franklin has had. I mean, he's done a respectable job at Nebraska. The job he did in Carolina was abysmal, but the streets of Chicago are littered with coaches who got fired from the Carolina Panthers. I like the fact that he played football there. I know that we fought that battle in Alabama 20, 30 years ago, but there is something. Penn State is unique, and you really need to understand the culture. And it doesn't hurt that his best friend is the AD who was with him at Temple, where he had great success.
Paul, man, as always, you're right. It has been too long. We got to do this more often. It's such a refreshing to have you back on and talk college football, the sport we so much love. And, man, it's just good to see you. Saw in Atlanta, and we got to see each other more often.
Thank you. John Barry, it's really fun to be back on the show, and I hope we can do this again.
Hey, thank you. We appreciate it very much. Paul Finebaum joins us, good enough to spend some time in what is a busy time, joining Longshore and McKnight here on the program.